So today I'm just kind of going to be covering the basics. So I originally got into doing digital marketing because I was starting my business in Lake Cowichan and we had a bit of a digital need there. So I kind of dropped out of my current program view, got into digital marketing at BCIT, and then kind of been working in small business with that for the past couple of years. So these are the things that I found that if I knew back when I started would kind of help me have a smoother process. So I'm kind of sharing with you that today. Feel free to take notes for questions at the end. And this will be available for download should you want it. So the basics to running a Facebook page, this is kind of the basic thing. And I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible because there's quite a bit of stuff to cover. But it's planning, doing, reviewing. Now, we can't really put enough emphasis on how much each one of these are important and actually the things you need to cover in each app site to make sure you're kind of making the best use of your time. In general, if you're running when you're planning your social media campaigns, this is for just kind of like your day-to-day posts to kind of build that engagement and excitement to your customers. Typically a month to 1.5 months is a good is a planned time. It's enough time to where a message could be delivered out. You can have enough data to kind of gauge success or possibly things that you want to do the next time in the reviewing phase. So I'm going to kind of talk about each one of these sections, what's important for you to cover in them, and how to make sure you can kind of fit it into your practice. So planning. Planning is definitely one of the most important parts. This is where you're going to decide kind of the message, and you want your message to kind of align with your business goals, right? So maybe if your business goals right now is lead gen, your message is going to want to be something more about, why they'd want to contact you, why they should be connecting with you. For Bo with your lifestyle insurance, it could be like if there's a news post where someone had an accident while snowmobiling, she could maybe share that news post and say, this could be covered kind of thing. There's other types, how often you want to post. So remembering that every time you're saying, I want to do 4 posts a week, 5 posts a week, that is more work that you would either be taking on or stuff that would be contracting out. So make sure you don't ever take on too much to what you can't handle, or maybe it's a little bit too much cost to what you might actually be getting out of it in terms of your overall goal. Type of content is important too. This is like videos and whatnot, images, or if you're just going to do kind of long form writing. And by kind of depicting all these things of what you're going to be wanting to do for your campaign, you're going to get a really good understanding of how much time it's going to take. And you want to make sure plan something within your means, because if you're going to do a social media campaign, make sure it's just, although you maybe not as robust campaign as you'd like, be able to complete it. Because the more times you do this and the more times you focus on planning, the easier it gets. So frequency, we kind of touched on this last slide, but how many times you want to post a week? It's really important to stay on schedule. So if you're saying that on Tuesday mornings, I'm going to do a post on maybe just insurance updates, or I'm going to do it on cool product reviews of other companies that we like, make sure you stay consistent to that, because as we like to try and take like an approach to where we can review and analyze, successfully, knowing that if our posts are always at 9, mean that over the course of that campaign, we can really see, okay, did posting our stuff at 9 p.m., did it do well? Or maybe the next time you do it, you try like 11 p.m. or you try earlier in the day, and you can start kind of compare and contrast and see what works best. Same thing goes for type. So if you're posting video content, you want you want to do it for a couple times so you can really gauge the effectiveness of it. If you're doing image content, if you're more kind of basing around humor jokes, make sure you're doing it for a long time, but you're staying consistent to the message so that you can really look back and say, okay, was it effective? So again, I like to highlight your time. Make sure you have time to do it. And I always say, before you even start making the post, you should have all your content, everything ready kind of in the chamber saved, just so that you can schedule the post. And keep it simple. There's no reason why your campaign has to be overly complex the first time. There's tons of things you can look at doing in Facebook, like automated messaging bots, or you can do remarketing. But for the first little bit, just keep it simple and get that workflow worked in so that it becomes a little bit more second nature before you start taking on more complex campaigns.
Or what is the second S in KISS?
Keep it simple, stupid, but I just PG'd it. So getting your content created. So content is king, and getting it created doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend a whole boatload of money on it. If you're working with a smaller budget, you can bootstrap and kind of do it yourself with a little bit of elbow grease. But there are some great tools to kind of make it handy. So for kind of doing quick animations or graphic images, Canva is a fantastic online tool that I recommend. There is a free version and paid versions, but it automatically has the sizes for Facebook, ad dimensions that are best recommended, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can make your cover photos. And best of yet, there's a lot of examples and design templates you can start from to redesign on if you don't have kind of that design eye. So it's super handy, and it really can empower businesses. Even the paid version isn't that expensive. So if you don't have like a designer in your team, or you're needing a way to create content at a really low cost, this is definitely an option before looking at maybe contracting someone. All depending on kind of your budget and what you're using it for, but definitely a worthwhile tool to look in. And in addition, good content doesn't mean like 4K or you got a really big camera to do a cool picture. You can get content that does quite well just because the message you were delivering is good. So remember, it doesn't need to be sensitive, but content is king. So you need to connect with your user. The content calendar. So before you are actually in your planning stage, content calendar is really important. So you're literally going to write down on a calendar that you'll keep somewhere safe where it'll never be lost, the dates of and times of when you're posting and what you're posting. And what I recommend is that you make time beginning of each week where you schedule all your posts in advance, so you don't have to worry about it the rest of the week. It could take like an hour, but then once it's done, it's done. And you want to stick to this calendar, right? But make sure you kind of have it in place, because when it comes to where you need to expand, or maybe you have an employee you need to say, hey, post this for me, it's all going to be in one place, so you can kind of stay on top of it. So doing the actual posting is super important in terms of scheduling, right? So you're going to stick to your post. You want to follow your plan, but you want to make sure that you're blocking out time also to get back to the people who are engaging on those posts. There's cool tools to make sure you can do this easily, such as the Facebook Business Pages app. It has a tab on it where if you're just sitting there, you can open it, and anyone who's commented or messaged your page comes up on one of the screens. You can take time to respond back to each of them. It's super important for engagement, makes the customer feel connected. So try and make that a part of it. On top of that, keep track of kind of how fast things are taking off. If you find one post right off the bat that's tons of traction, take note of that, because while we're kind of posting it, we're also kind of watching it and seeing how it's doing. And again, plan time to respond to your comments and your messages, and have a bit of an ad budget for your regular day-to-day post. Facebook won't really ever publicly admit it, but your just regular posts on Facebook don't go that far, except for the people who've liked your page. And if you're starting a new page, you need to expand that a bit. So having maybe like $100 a month, so that the odd post that you want to get out there more, you can boost it $5 here, $10 there. And you might find you get like your page going a lot quicker.
Ryan, is it worth it to boost an old post or not really?
You know what? It depends on what, again, so it kind of depends on on what you're kind of hoping to do. So if a post did well before, you could boost it. Someone might see it's an old post. You could even say, hey, if it was super long ago, maybe you could just make a new post about it. Say, hey, don't forget this. Kind of depends on the content, but there's nothing wrong with it. Again, what I would say is that depending how much you're looking at spending on it, maybe like $10, and you did boost it and you got great reviews, then hey, job well done. But if you did it and you find that, hey, we didn't get much out of this, then remember that. And that kind of goes in your notebook of what things work with our kind of customers. Not quite an exact answer, but I think it kind of gets you on the thinking track.
No, I was more thinking about like a post that really did well.
A post that really did well, yeah. So can you give us an example of that?
So like sharing your expertise. So we had a post a few months ago that it was talking about the benefits of 3D rendering, and we broke it down. I think there's like 7 that we've kind of pillars of what the benefits are, and it's a swipe post with a few different
images.
points on.
Cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it did quite a bit better than some of our more just kind of like brand content. And
Yeah.
so I was just kind of digging through that stuff a few days
Perfect.
ago.
So let's just dissect that a bit. So it was the benefits. So that's kind of something that really helps people. Like, hey, these are why you should be doing something. So there's two ways. You could take that same post and maybe break it down into, like, we're doing one post a week on the benefits, maybe a little more in-depth benefit to explanations to why it's good. You kind of reinvent that post. You could make the same post again, or you could look at doing something else in your business that shows the benefits of the service and test that out in other areas. But it's interesting that one did better. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks.
Perfect. So review. Reviewing's the part where you kind of get to look back and say, okay, did we do a good job? And you got to be really analytical about this. So this is literally the part that I've said separates the winners from the not winners. And it's being able to be critical about the data and to come up with ways you can improve. There's no need to recreate the wheel too. Feel free to spy on your competitors, see what they're doing. So typically when you're starting off, you're like, man, I don't really know what to post. So maybe in your planning, you look back and you looked around and said, hey, some of these look like great ideas. After your whole campaign is done and you go out there, really look back, look at the data and see, okay, what maybe we could have improved. This is going to come from the actual maybe comments from your customers. Maybe you've dealt with some of them in person after these posts were being made and had some cool feedback. You got to take kind of everything into consideration and put that back into action for your next campaign kind of post. It is kind of important to understand the data too, so I'm going to break it down a little bit. On the left-hand side, we have kind of a snapshot from my social media page, Orca, and there's a couple things in here. So you see reach, engagement. What do these mean? Pretty basic. So reach is how many people you have reached unique. This isn't to say that one of these 328 could have, 28, my glasses are not on, but I can read that. 328 people saw this post. They could have seen it a couple times, but in general, individual people, 328 saw it. On this page, you don't see it, but there is something called impressions. And impressions is how many times your ad was displayed in front of someone. Could be the same person, could be someone new. It's not often that people click an ad the first time, so sometimes it's nice. It's good that people are re-seeing it. And then you have your engagement from someone's commented, reacted, or shared. And these are important. Like, there's benefits to each of these. If someone engages on your content, the chances are is that your reach is going to go up because all their friends will see that kind of engagement. And impressions, it's great because you're knowing that the more that they're seeing it, maybe you want to start incorporating a bit more clickbaity items so that they actually click through. And so on and so forth. If you were to do an ad, there's typically like your click-through rate wherever the ad's sending them to. And that's kind of the basics to Facebook, the Facebook data. And then repeat, which is exactly what it sounds like. Do it all over again and try and do it a bit better. And that's kind of the gist of the social media marketing. But to kind of do a quick little review, you're going to make your plan. And get all your content ready, and you're going to have a goal and kind of a way you can measure it. If your goal is leads, see how many leads it brings in. If your goal is branding, see how much people you get out there, maybe how much likes your page goes up, maybe Facebook traffic. When you're doing it, follow your calendar, block out the time, and post info posting, responding to people, and be critical when reviewing your data. Listen to your customers, look at the results before you do it all over again. And that's pretty much the gist of running your own page. If anyone has any questions from there, let me know.
Hey, Ryan, a question.
Yep.
So so in terms of running Facebook ads, is there a difference between knowing when to have them going directly and promoting your Facebook business page, or sometimes you see Facebook ads that are promoting going directly to a business's website?
Yeah, so it depends on your goals, right? So I will make Facebook ads going to someone's website. Let's just say we're doing lead generation. They might have a contact form made on their page that maybe they've paid to have good conversions on it. It's been designed with good CTR, click-through rate. So they click the ad, they go to the page, they input their information, that kind of completes. If you're doing an actual pay-per-click ad campaign is a little bit different than managing your page. There's your boost button, which is great, but if you're getting to like Facebook Ads Manager, you can really target and really niche down your target demographic. Ads typically, like true Facebook ads, typically you don't see on Facebook pages because they're not really like, it's very targeted at driving traffic and kind of like actually getting a result from it, while building an environment on your page is more of a kind of building that awareness, the branding, and which you can get leads from, but a little bit less direct, if that makes sense.
Okay. Perfect.
There, maybe in the future, I would love to kind of talk more about doing a pay-per-click campaign where you're running ads directly, but depending again where you want those people to go, it just depends on your goals.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Oh,
I think, yeah.
Do you want to add to that, Ryan? You were going to say something?
No, I was going to say you have a question on your chat.
Yeah. Okay, so when I did it for a real estate development company, Facebook and we did print ads, and then the newspaper had their digital. I found that when and I want you to comment on this, what your opinion is when I manipulated, like if I posted on the Facebook and then I went to my personal and I liked it and shared it, and then had someone else like it and share it, and you know, fooled around with it, there was more impact than just posting something.
Oh yes, completely. So Facebook, just to get, and so I touched that quite quickly in this, but you're completely correct. Now Facebook will never outright say this, but every year organic reach drops, which means most people who are the chances of your stuff being seen without any kind of dollars behind it is less and less, and that's because Facebook's a business. They want to drive people to spending money on their platform. So that's why we want to have a little bit of an ad budget. Throwing $5 in a post can really kind of, like, you just pick, let's say you're in Nanaimo or Victoria, you pick the area, it really helps get your name out there, it drives those likes up. You'll find that the more your likes go up and the more you kind of get that engagement on your page, that things will naturally kind of get better reach. But if you're just posting and having no ad budget towards it and not sharing it, that post probably won't be seen. So there's definitely a bunch of legwork at the beginning to say, hey, make sure you're sharing it, or asking your friends to. Totally.
Yeah, so as a network, we should be doing that for each other, right?
So Ryan, for Facebook ad, does video needs to be uploaded into the Facebook thing or anywhere else, and then you just link it?
So if you want to do like a Facebook ad, you just upload the ad to Facebook. So you could do it like if you're making a post, you can upload it there, or if you're running it through the ads manager, you can make a post. You can just upload the video there.
Okay.
I have a couple recommendations. So we use a system called Later. If anyone handles their own social media,
I love Later.
Yeah, so it's a scheduling part of the sort of doing, or I guess more in the planning. But it's really neat because it actually lays out your posts. You can see them on your Instagram feed as well as on a calendar. So you can, it helps with the planning phase that Ryan spoke about. So. Really just seeing it all visually. That's a major thing with Instagram, just to kind of bolster what Ryan said as well, is the overall brand feel. It comes down to branding as well as like the brand feel, how people feel when they look at your Instagram feed. So you want to make sure that matches. And it's definitely a very visual platform. And the cool thing about Later as well is you can have, even on the free version, you can do 30 posts a month on Instagram, which is pretty like heavy usage for someone starting out, as well as posting to all your social channels at the same time. So you can post to, I believe it's got, so we use Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We kind of just push our posts to Twitter, but they actually show up as images, which is really good. And then I think it's got Pinterest as well. But
So you do everything in Later, and then he automatically puts it.
Sort of. Yeah, I'll touch on this. That's a good point to bring up there, Alex. So there are tons of tools out there for helping manage your your posts. So let's just say you're running more than one social media page. Let's say Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. going into each of those pages and different websites to schedule your posts individually can take a lot of time. So there's a lot of tools out there. Sometimes they charge a small monthly fee for doing multiple accounts, but you can kind of save time by scheduling all your posts in one place. And it's super handy. The one thing that originally got me interested in later is that at the time they were, I think this was about 2 or 3 years ago, they were the only ones that also would display data on your Instagram when your people who were following your page were active, so you could schedule those posts effectively. Typically now Facebook, you can get that data from Facebook and stuff, which is great. But Later also has a great, like the stuff they post in their blog has a lot of good stuff for running a successful Instagram, which is their main focus, I believe. But any sort of tool like Hootsuite is one you can maybe look at if you're liking that better. But it's a good point where if you're running multiple pages and you need to kind of make your workflow a bit better, there are tools out there to post to multiple social media channels at once. I will preface that with not all social media channels need the same content. Case in point, Facebook's kind of business to consumer, LinkedIn's kind of business to business. So you can kind of see how there might be a bit of a disconnect.
And Instagram people are less looking to buy. I don't think people are like really pumped to buy on Instagram.
I mean, you can get a lot of people pumped to buy through like social media influencers, but you'll find that Instagram is way better at getting engagement because the actual interface of Instagram is incredibly easy. You double tap to like a photo. There's like 3 buttons you can select. So if you're thinking like branding, getting known, and imagery, Instagram will probably be a good focus, even maybe Pinterest.
Yeah, a colleague of mine, she, for life insurance, the life living benefits, she actually just focused on Instagram. And I couldn't believe she got business from there. Like, just pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And insurance is kind of tough that way, right? But she got a lot of activity through Instagram.
Great.
Any other questions at all? Or should we start the roundtable?
Well, this is kind of round table. We'll just continue.
Oh, cool.
Right? We'll just continue.
I will stop sharing my screen now. So